I am your host, Nicole Will, and we thank you for joining us as we navigate the world with your aging loved one. We are here to come alongside elders, family members, and the senior living community as we explore the world of aging and elder care with helpful resources, informative interviews, and approachable conversations. We get to do this together, so join us on our journey, and this is the willGather podcast. Hi, everyone. We are so thrilled to be able to introduce to you Abbie Richie. She is the founder of Senior Savvy, which provides Zoom workshops and technical support at senior living communities throughout the United States. Senior Savvy is the marriage of two things Abbie loves, which is helping older people and technology. Hi, Abbie. Welcome. So happy you're here.
Hi, thank you. I am honored. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. So, not only do you support older adults in senior living communities, you also support older adults in their home. You offer such a wide variety of ways to come alongside them in their technology journey, classes, workshops, tech support. How did this work find you? How did you come to be able to do this for people?
That is a good question. And that's a question that my clients ask me all the time. Why older people? Why are you working with older people? And I can only say it's a passion of mine. And also, I grew up with my Nana and Papa. And because of that, I have a deep love and admiration for older folks. So I just love being with them. It makes, really fills me to work with them. And I have always been invested in education technology. So it's when you mention the marriage of those two things, that is what started Senior Savvy. And while I started the company 3 years ago, it started in me a long, long time ago.
Yeah, those dreams really can be born a while ago, and they take time just to develop and grow. And then look what happens. You've created this really great community, and you're able to reach quite a bit of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Up until April, March, April last year, I was in the various communities in my local area teaching these workshops, as well as working with the residents one-on-one. And in March and April, when my in-person workshops got canceled, I thought, oh my goodness, that's the end of my business. I had this very solid business plan leading up to that point about it being one-on-one and it being live and in the communities. And what has been the silver lining for me within COVID is that being able to deliver the workshops on Zoom has actually allowed me to reach far more seniors because I'm not limited by my geography.
Hmm. Yes, you can really reach people from around the world if they find you.
I received a phone call from a daughter who lives in Spain who asked me if I could help her father, who lives nearby, transitioning to a newer computer. And she found out about me from my Facebook or my LinkedIn page or YouTube, saw my videos and felt like I would be a good fit for her father. And she felt comfortable creating that connection between us. So, yes, people are able to partake and understand more about the services that I'm offering because I'm using video now.
You mentioned the silver lining to COVID is that we are able to connect in ways that we didn't imagine at first, but it's stepped us out of our comfort zone, but it's also been a really beautiful time to be able to create that community on a worldwide platform.
Absolutely. And looking back at March and April, I will tell you, I was so discouraged because of having to really rethink my approach. And there were many times where I thought, I'm just going to have to shelf this idea until COVID is over. But I also had several students requesting that I do my workshops on Zoom. And the drive to serve my clients and to serve the communities was stronger than my limitations to my own technology, learning how to deliver these workshops online, and honestly, just getting over myself and my presence on video, which was a huge limitation or just hindrance for me. Think back to April. None of us had good hair days, right? And we were all sorely in need of, a hair salon visit. So, but whatever, when you have passion and you have drive and motivation to serve, all of your hangups go to the wayside and you do what needs to be done.
And I can see that we're connected professionally, and I love being able to have access to all the videos that you're doing each day, and you're speaking to people and you can see your heart and you explain it so well. And I just know that that community gets so much value from that information. So I think it's so needed, and I'm really glad that you decided to have a little of that braveness, right? And try something new.
Yeah.
COVID really
Mm-hmm.
affected us in many different ways, us in a professional way, our seniors, they're more isolated and lonely than ever. What would you say are some of those statistics? How many people are living alone and need that support?
Yeah, surprisingly, the numbers have really increased over the last couple of years. And I've read that there are 12 million seniors over the age of 65 that are living alone and struggling severely with boredom, with isolation, and loneliness or helplessness.
So
My goal
much.
really is to combat that. Yeah, I know it's huge. And my goal as the founder of Senior Savvy is to combat that by teaching them tech skills that they need and empowering them to feel confident about their ability to use their devices.
Right, because you giving them the skills and empowering them to do that helps them be more connected to whether it's their family, whether it's another community, and gives them the skills to be able to not feel as isolated and lonely. It's really a
Yeah.
lifeline.
Oh, absolutely. And because of COVID, so many folks that wouldn't have considered using video technology to connect with their family are now using it. And so the desire to connect is greater than their technical limitations,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So,
Would you
mhm.
say too that I think they see we're all having to use technology in a new way? So, in a sense, they're not alone in that need for learning a new skill, right? It's not just, oh, we're focusing on older adults that need to learn technology, which is what we are because that is what where you focus your talents. But in a way, our whole world and all of us are having to utilize technology in a new way that we've never done it before.
Absolutely. It's been a huge growth curve for so many of us. I mean, we are now talking on Zoom and you're recording, all of which we've probably learned to do within the last 8 or 9 months, right? So even when I'm queuing up my classes and I'm doing a screen share and then I'm putting the presentation in a full screen mode, all of those steps, they're all new steps. And I do a pretty extensive Zoom basics series with different communities. And I always tell them, I've only been using this Zoom for 8 or 9 months. That's it. This is all new for me too. And they always say something like, oh, we're glad when you have technical difficulties.
Yes.
And we know that you struggle with it too. And I say,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. It's all new to me too. And it changes all the time,
It does.
right?
Yes, we're all in this together. Talking about you speak to them about the Zoom, what are some of those other top concerns that you found older adults have when they come to you? What are they wanting to learn? What are those challenges?
A lot of my clients tend to lack confidence in their tech skills. And that's usually one of the first things they'll say to me is, I don't know how to use this thing. My son or my daughter bought it for me. I used to be really smart or cutting edge, but I haven't done anything in a really long time. And they're usually concerned that I'm going to think that they're not skilled or educated. And I put the kibosh on that right away. I say, there are a lot of things you know how to do that I have no idea how to do, and I value that. And so if you say anything negative about yourself, oh, I'm so stupid, or I'm dumb, or, I don't know, or I'm out of date, I'm going to put a stop to that right away. And one of the principles of Senior Savvy is to keep it kind, right? Like I value what you bring to the table, and we're going to keep it kind. So I don't want to hear you put yourself down or anything like that. And I'm going to stop that right away because, we all feel unschooled and with a lack of knowledge in certain areas.
So true. You're encouraging their self-confidence by saying, there are so many wonderful things that you can do really well. This is just one small area. And I think we all need that reminder and that encouragement that, hey, we all have our areas that we're learning and growing and can give back in other ways. So that's so great that you do that.
Thanks. I value these folks, and coming to know their stories and coming to know who they are has made the experience so rich for me, and I have had access to some of the most accomplished people in the world. And they have amazing backgrounds and amazing stories. And I love that about my job, that I get to know them and what they've been through and what their experiences are.
It really makes for a rich history of learning about their life.
Absolutely. Another concern that many of my clients have is privacy, security, and passwords. So we do talk a lot about keeping their data private, about creating passwords, unique passwords for their websites, and keeping their devices up to date. I think that is one of the common threads with my clients, is that they don't really see the need to update their devices when a new update comes up. They don't necessarily, and the new updates don't necessarily apply to them. And so if they don't want emojicons or, new colors or new backgrounds, and sometimes they'll just look at it and say, I don't want the update. But what they don't realize is that the update has security in it. And it's also going to allow their device to last longer because it's being kept up to date. So a lot of times I will say to them, it's like this. When you have an update to do, it's sort of like the check engine light goes on in your car. And imagine, about how long could you drive around in that car with a check engine light on, right? So the update notification or badge that you see on your device, that is a check engine light. And what will happen? And then they'll say, well, my car will probably break down. And I'll say yes. And about how many days or hours or whatever, 3 or 4, maybe 5, depending. And I say, absolutely. I would not feel comfortable driving around with a check engine light on. So when you see that, it needs to signal to you that something needs to be done.
That is such a good analogy, because we can relate to that we need to make sure that everything is in proper running order for us to be able to use it well.
Yeah. Right. But my clients really dislike having to do those upgrades. It seems wholly unnecessary, and you don't want anything to change either. You don't want the whole operating system to change, and then you're going to have to learn something new and update everything else. I get it, but I also want their devices to last, right? and it's necessary to update your device for its longevity and the security features.
And this is why it's so important for older adults to have more information about the technology that they're using. We don't want them to be taken advantage of. We want their information to be protected. We want them to be able to connect with other family members in their community. All of those things play such a huge role in that quality of life.
Absolutely. And it really just reminds me of Elaine, who I was working with recently, and she's needed help with her iPad, and she's asked me so many times to give up on her, but I've told her, like, I'm not going to give up on you, Elaine, okay? Unless you refuse to see me, I'm not going to give up on you because I know that you can do this. And one thing that we did recently was we did several mock Zoom meetings, okay, where I would send her a link and then she would log on. And the goal here is that she would be able to connect with her family. And then she called me on Saturday and said, I did it. I did it. I was able to watch my granddaughter in her gymnastics competition. And she was like, all heaven and earth must have moved. How did you do it, Abbie? It was a miracle. And I was like, no, it was you. You practiced, you stuck in there, you followed the instructions that we wrote down, and you did it. And now let's do it again, and let's do it again, right? So you can keep that skill fresh. And she's in her she's 90. She kept saying, I'm 90. I don't think I can do this. I'm like, oh, no. I have other clients that are much older than you, and you can do this, Elaine. I know you can. And when you do, you are going to be reconnected with your family. So I'm so thankful. I have victories like this all the time, and I celebrate them. I just had a gentleman call me who wanted to join a workshop this week, and he said, I want to come to your workshop. I said, okay. He said, I'm 95. I haven't done it before. I'm like, that's okay. We can do it. He said, I've never been on Zoom. I'm like, okay, are you in front of your computer? Yes. And so we went through a couple steps that I will tell you, 5 minutes in, he gets connected. I hear the ding dong in my Zoom room, and then we're seeing each other. And those are victories. And I've had many times like that where my kiddos who are home with me and have been home since March they hear the victory, they hear the ding dong, and they know that ding dong from Zoom when someone has connected, and they'll come around and they'll cheer them on. And it is victorious, right? It's victorious every time it happens. So I love that. And I'll keep striving for that day after day.
What a great testament to their learning new things. They're able to connect, celebrating the victories. We all need people that can cheer us on. You're able to do that. There's so many benefits to feeling connected and empowered, and you shared some of those stories. Any other insight into what those benefits are, those successes that you've really seen really played out?
So many. I can think of
How do we
many
narrow
of them.
it down? I don't know.
Even just yeah, really. Well, even my mom, my own folks, I'm helping them all the time with their technology, and they live in a different city. I'm helping them. And my mom's been able to connect with her Maj group, both on the computer. They play twice a week, but then they also have their phones on FaceTime so that they could talk and interact with each other. And these things that we love to do, whether it's a book club or it's a Maj group, or it's a get together of people who have similar interests, these keep us engaged. And they keep us alive and vital. So the fact that you may have to get dressed up twice a week to see your friends, and then you're going to talk and kibitz with them, right? That allows someone to, propels them day to day, week to week in this very trying time where they are so isolated. So, I did have this one client, Arthur. He is a senior in one of the communities I work with, and he's also was teaching a weekly class at with a dementia group. Okay. And he wanted to continue doing that on Zoom. And so we spent a couple of sessions just getting connected and then teaching him how to share his lyrics on his screen. So, we might be able to figure that out independently, but that has been a huge struggle for a lot of my clients sharing their screen. Okay, but here is the beauty of the situation. When we were all done and we had made the connection, I asked him to sing for me. And he played a song, and it was so healing for my soul to hear him perform, with all this lack of live entertainment.
Yeah, we're
To hear
missing
him
that so
perform.
much.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, it was awesome. It was awesome. And it was the best culture I've had in a really long time. And I'm grateful for that.
I agree. When I am on a Zoom call or I've got meetings scheduled, it gives me that extra motivation. I'm like, okay, I'm going to curl my hair. I'll put on not sweatpants, all of those things. And we all need that in our day, especially right now. It's just so needed. What encouragement would you give us on where to start? This can be so overwhelming to learn something new, especially around technology. It's not something that our older adults had interfaced with previously, given just the generation. And like you said, it's constantly changing. There are new programs, new devices. Where is a good place to start?
Keeping it simple is the best place to start for my clients. And another principle of Senior Savvy is KISS, keep it simple, senior. Okay. Because we don't say the other S word, right? So to keep it simple. And when I am working with my clients, as well as advising their adult children, I'm trying to keep the process as simple as possible. They don't need to know all the bells and whistles that came with their iPad. But if you can, if you're helping them, as I do, move all the unnecessary apps to another page, put them in a folder so they're not distracting them. I like to make the font larger, use the zoomed view on the iPad so that all the apps are bigger. And these are all very simple tweaks, but they have a huge impact on someone who could easily get distracted, confused, discouraged. So keep it simple. My instructions are always simple. And when I'm helping someone, I also try to not put too tight of a time frame on it. Everyone is going to learn at a different pace. So if you're helping your folks, for instance, you want to be able to make sure you're going to be patient and you're going to have the time to guide them through it rather than get antsy or angry while you're helping them, because that doesn't help anyone. I do have some solid recommendations that I will give adult children when they contact me about their parents. It's just gotten too complicated. They just want to use a computer for email and checking stocks or looking on Facebook. What should they use? Because they can't really figure out how to use their computer. Or the cell phone, the smartphone it's too complicated and there are too many options. What should they choose? And I have found that there are some great options out there to be considered. And this is part of keeping it simple, because while I may want them to be on a Mac or an iPhone, I think those are easy to use. I want it to be simple for my client, not simple for me, simple for them. So the Telekin makes a very simple touchscreen computer with limited options. And they also have excellent customer service that's available on call. So that's the Telekin. And so when the computer starts to get too complicated, there's too many options, too many passwords, they don't know how to operate it, I usually recommend a Telekin. And then in regards to a smartphone, I will typically recommend a Jitterbug smartphone that's made by Great Call. And, I love the iPhone and I think it's really easy to use. But when someone needs something simpler than an iPhone, the Jitterbug makes a really good smartphone with apps.
Family caregivers are often looking for advice on what care technology to use. There are so many options available. What would be a good fit for families that's helpful? And is there something available or any insights that you have when families are considering a care technology?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There are many new things available, and I'm constantly seeing what's out there. And, one thing I really like a lot is the Apple Watch. Okay. And because there are several things within the Apple Watch, the technology. It has fall detection technology, it has a heart rate monitor. And so families can see what is happening with their loved one by the watch that they're wearing, along with many other integrations. Then there are other technologies like an in-home camera, right? So a simple Ring device, or there's one that's called GrandPad, where you can track and see what they're doing and if they're taking their medications. There are medication dispensers that will dispense medication on certain days at certain times so that there's no confusion with prescriptions. And, I think having something that they're going to be able to access without much difficulty, like Alexa, is really handy for a lot of people who have accessibility challenges. But Alexa can be trained on so many different fronts, with voice technology, with helping you make phone calls, with helping you remind you what time it is, if you want to watch a radio program. So there are a lot of skills that can be used with Alexa.
Yes, and it comes back to the idea that you share, which is keep it simple. If it's simple for people, they'll be able to use it and they'll want to engage with it.
A lot of times when I see a new piece of technology released and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, yeah, that looks great. But then what happens if they can't turn it on, right?
Yeah.
And that is really a lot for my clients. That's a struggle. That's a limitation and an obstacle, turning it on. And believe it or not, even though they may own an iPad, well, these things, they don't come with an instruction manual. And my clients are always looking for the first level of instruction. So I will always go through the basics with them. This is what this button does. This is what this button does. This is how you turn it off. And this is how you silence it. Believe it or not, they've been waiting for someone to teach them those basics. And they want a handout with a diagram. So, it's something to keep in mind. It's great to give your folks a Roku because you want TV streaming to be easier for them because they complain about it. Mm-hmm. Or you want to ask them to watch a show and they don't know how to use their TV. But if they don't know how to set it up, it doesn't do them any good, right? Mm-hmm. And if the device stops working, what do they do with it? So these are things that concern me that I think about. These are topics that my workshops are based on often.
It's like you said, we think it's simple in the sense of, we get our iPad and you're right, it doesn't come with an instruction manual. And just you're giving them that peace of mind that they can have a simple way to understand what they're using and feel empowered and making connections with other people.
They do worry that they're going to break it. Mm-hmm. That's one of their major concerns is I'm worried I'm going to break it. And I say, Mary, the only way you're going to break this is if you drop it in water or you step on it with a high heel hard, right? Or you run over it with your car. But otherwise, you're not going to break it, right? And so I try to I teach them that so that they feel comfortable using the devices that they have and empowered by their technology.
This has been so informational, so much good information, so encouraging. Not only are you teaching people how to use technology in general, but what I love is that you really dive into those specific programs and tools. And where can our listeners learn more about you, find information, and be able to connect with you?
First, thank you. And second, if you're an activity director, and I hope you are, I want to serve your community. And you can go ahead and reach out to me on my website, seniorsavvy.net, or if you're on LinkedIn, I am constantly updating activity directors on LinkedIn. And so you can reach out to me there. I will get back to you right away. And if you're, again, are an activity director, then I am hosting Zoom Tech Time workshops for your residents, and I want to serve them. And if you are an individual not living at a community, I do have a FaceTime Live program that I've been running on Wednesdays. And I answer a lot of questions in that program. So you can go to Facebook Live and find me on the Senior Savvy page. If you want one-on-one help too, just go ahead and reach out to me. It's seniorsavvy.net, N-E-T. I have a lot of my videos on the YouTube channel, and I will record a couple of workshops per week and keep them on there, as well as tech tips. So that is the Senior Savvy YouTube channel.
So many great ways for people to find you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your information with us, and I hope everyone can reach out to you and have all of their technology needs met. Thanks, Abbie.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe and give us 5 stars. In all honesty, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to our episode.